Glenn Beck's very much focused on the Great Reset, but I think it might be more radical than that, and it gets back to that sort of pretension that they could sort of treat us like lab rats and organize society from the top down.
Well, it's central planning run amok, and this is just a medical form of central planning rather than economic central planning. We saw that in the epidemiology models that Fauci seized on and several of the other governments of the world seized on. Famous one being the Neil Ferguson model out of Imperial College. And I know we talked about that when it was in its infancy back in April 2020. And, here's a fascinating story. Neil Ferguson runs this model first for the US and UK, and it's predicting millions of deaths, like COVID catastrophe. And this isn't aggregated deaths over multiple years. This is supposed to peak in like July 2020. So very rapid acceleration of deaths. And I think the model only ran for a year after, so we're long past that. He expands the model to, I think it was almost 200 different countries. So about 10 days after the first model came out, they released a second paper that listed all their projections of deaths for every country on Earth.
Yeah.
And I did an analysis of it 1 year later, the 1 year anniversary, to see how it held up. And of the three main models that they ran, two of the three had overshot all 200 or so countries. Every single country on Earth was below the threshold that they had predicted. And the only model that actually was surpassed, their death projections were surpassed, was this radical China-style 75% lockdown held in place for a year until a vaccine comes in place. So it's like welding people in their apartment style model. And it failed in, I think, like 180 out of 200 countries. They still failed in their estimates on that. So it's a disastrous performance based on this model that was a quintessential central plan. I mean, here's a guy that based his whole idea for how to study epidemiology on playing SimCity in 1996.
Yeah.
So as the central planner, the guy that's dragging the buildings around and telling the Sims where they have to live, this is the whole mentality that was brought to bear in the pandemic. And it's not economic central planning in the sense of the old Soviet-style bureaucrat that's allocating components of production, but it is epidemiological central planning in the sense that you pull this lever at this moment and it's going to change the course of the disease. You enact this lockdown or this intervention or this mask mandate at a certain point and it's going to alter the course of the pandemic. And the whole thinking is that we bring it under control by just doing the things in the instruction manual of the central planner. Well, it turns out they try all these things and none of them have delivered anything near where they were promising.